Cowboy boots are an American icon. You can show cowboy boots to almost anyone in the world and they instantly connect that with America. They represent America in a way that no other footwear does. So this is the first pair of cowboy boots that I ever had. When I was 20, my husband and I married, and we moved from Missouri to Oklahoma to Guthrie, and I answered an ad in the paper for stitching boot tops. I had no idea what that was, and it was with an old man named Jay Griffith. He was an old alcoholic, and he screamed and cussed, and I had never been around anyone who drank or cussed. I was raised in a very conservative little church where the ladies all wear long hair and long dresses, so I wasn't cowboy at all. I had never owned a pair of cowboy boots until I got my job with Jay. We made this pair of boots at Jay's. At the time, I was only stitching tops, just doing the decorative work. But now I think these boots are just really overwhelmingly feminine. I would never, ever want a pair of boots like that again. But that was my first pair. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm transferring the pattern onto the leather so I'll know where to stitch. I only drew it on half. I folded it in half and I stitched it with no thread in the needle. And that gave me a series of holes. I've applied a really thin coat of rubber cement, and that will hold my pattern on. So I'm going to lay this pattern here and line it up carefully. Now this is an old sock filled with baby powder. And there's my pattern for stitching.
Lisa and I first met in Springfield. I had went to church there, and after church they had ping pong, and Lisa showed up, and I didn't know her at the time.
I noticed him and manufactured an opportunity to meet him. We actually met playing ping pong in the basement after church.
So she played me, and I actually had to play to keep from getting beat.
This is called Inlay. Where you see the red, I've cut a leaf-shaped hole out of the brown, and I put a different color leather, in this case red, behind, and that's called Inlay. Every color is a different piece of leather, and every piece of leather has to be stitched. The thing with leather is, anytime you stitch something, you have a hole. And so you can't make mistakes. I used 2 skins of navy alligator, and they were matched skins. They were the same size, the same tile pattern and everything, because I want my vamps to match. The vamp is the foot part of the boot. The navy alligator is American alligator, it's farm raised. So I was cutting out the vamps. You won't really see that white leather, the lining leather, because it's what's touching your foot. And then the navy alligator is what you will see, but there's actually 2 layers of leather in there, the lining leather and the vamp leather. I put them in water because I'm going to crimp the vamps next. This right here is called a last. This is the form that the boot is built around. And this is a completely 3-dimensional shape. It has to make this curve and snug in here and wrap around here and make that toe. And so the vamp that I was cutting is a flat piece of leather, but it has to become this completely 3-dimensional shape. And so I'm going to take that vamp and I'm going to crimp it. I'm going to put it on it, stretch it over a board, and begin giving it that shape. And so the leather always needs to be wet when you're working it in that way. Otherwise, it will have a tendency to tear. I put the baby powder in because it helps the wet leather slide and not stick together. I'm crimping the vamps wrong side out so that I can use the hammerhead to rub on those wrinkles and make sure I get them out. Now this pair of boots, this is a pair of boots that I took to Germany for a competition. I entered a competition called the International Shoemaking Days in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was the only boot or shoemaker from America, and so to enter in that system and then to win a gold medal in that system was very meaningful for me because it kind of verified that, yes, I really have learned some things, because there's no formal way to know that here. I love the mood of this boot. The colors are kind of subdued, but yet the theme is spring. The name of this boot is If We Make It Through December. I name all of my boots after classic country songs.
Let's do it again. Let's fall in love all over again. Spend the time that we should spend just to do it again.
As Lisa was working for Jay, she discovered that boot making was what she wanted to do. So she worked for Jay for about a year and a half, and then I found a sewing machine for sale, and she started stitching tops out of our back room. She didn't even know how to make the total boot. She was just stitching the tops. Other bootmakers told her all the work was always done in-house. They was not going to farm boot tops out to somebody else to stitch. Well, lo and behold, she was so good at stitching tops, the word got around. People would actually go to a bootmaker and say, I want you to make me a pair of boots, but have Lisa stitch the tops. She did that for 3 years until she was able to hire a former student of Jay's to teach her to make boots. So in the beginning, it was a lot of faith and trust that it would work out.
Most of my lasts are from the 1940s. The really good ones are from the 1940s. The old lasts for hand blasting are just beautiful. Anyone can see how beautiful these are. My favorite brands are the Crintler Brothers and the Western boot last. Each last is customized for the person's foot. So if someone has, let's see, if someone has a high instep, or they have a bunion, or they don't like the toe shape of the last, we can change the toe. So every last is customized for each person. I do have to meet and personally measure every customer, and so that's how the process begins. Someone comes in and I sit them down and I measure their feet. I talk to them about their feet if they have any fitting issues, and then I use that information to choose their last and to fit it for their foot. Cowboy boots don't have any lacing or buckles or any way to adjust the fit after you pull them on, and so you have to have an area that fits properly, and you can't pinch in the ball, or the next measurement will be the instep, and some people are very sensitive there.
The church that we go to is quite small. It used to be a one-room schoolhouse, and so it has a lot of history, and it's just very intimate and close.
Hallelujah, God is love. Paradise now helps to swell its saints. On earth afar, go tell it, Satan's host can never quell it, for the Lord our God is love.
I'm quite proud of my two daughters. I have Morgan, my 16-year-old, and Paige, my 13-year-old. They've both grown up in a boot shop, and I've tried to raise them to be very strong and confident. In the church I was raised in, the women don't have jobs, and I wanted my girls to be confident as women.
Yes, Paige, I'll even help you out.
Morgan is a novelist and an artist, and I think she gets that from Lisa's side. And Lisa and I, we're just waiting to get the next chapter to read it and see what's going to happen to the characters.
I'm very, very proud of my mother. All her life, due to the way she was raised, she was told, no, you're a woman, you can't do this. No, you're not smart enough. She started out stitching and making dresses, and she took what she learned from that and put it into stitching boot tops, and then she turned that into being a bootmaker and a successful businesswoman.
Paige, you want to come here?
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
I started becoming interested in working with my mom when I was having a sleepover with my best friend. We were both so bored and we were just annoying my mom to no end, so she decided we should make a bracelet. So she cut out 3 strips of leather and helped us braid it and helped us sew the ends together and everything. And after that, I decided I really liked making bracelets. So she taught me how to pattern and how to cut out leather, and from there I just decided I really liked working with leather. I'm 13, so the fact that my mom and my sister are both artists is really nice because it's easier to express myself and they understand why I like to be creative. My dad has a business degree, so with marketing and things like that, he is very supportive and helpful.
When I found bootmaking, it wasn't like discovering what I wanted to be. It was like finding out who I'd been all along, and I just hadn't known. I got to sew and be creative and be artistic, but at the same time I got to hammer. And it was a very physical thing, and that appealed to me greatly, that it had this craft aspect to it, this very hard physical labor, and I love that aspect of it.
I think it's been said about cowboy boots, they're timeless. It's not a throwaway product. With custom-made anything, cowboy boots, basket, pottery, clothes, it's just a sense of ownership and pride. And I just feel like you treat it differently than just something that you picked up off the shelf.
I think craft is empowering. I think when people have the ability to make something or to fix something, then they're completely empowered. It's possible for one person to make a pair of cowboy boots